Hi, Jess. How are you?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I'm so excited. We're finally starting this podcast together.
Do you know what it took for me not to say Happy Friday just now?
I know we've been talking about this for so long, and we've had so many people ask us about it that I'm so glad that we're finally starting it.
I honestly can't believe people want to hear us yap more than we already do.
Well, I think yap is an interesting word, right?
I think people want to hear.
Do you mean rap or yap? Rap or
Oh,
yap?
we could do both. This could be the yap and rap show.
Well, let's talk about the name.
Yes, what we actually are.
Edge of Now. The
Yeah.
Edge of Now.
I love it. I love it. It goes with a couple of things. I love that a few years ago we stopped saying future of work and we said it's happening. It's right now. It's the now of work. We have a now of work community. We called our business Now to Next. And when we talked about this podcast and what we wanted to talk more, the fact that we needed a little more time and space to talk about things, I loved the edge of now. It's all coming together, Jason. The plan.
It really is. It's amazing how that happens. It takes a lot of planning, right?
Totally. Yes.
But it's also been fun building this together with the community. And I'm so glad that this podcast is just another way to reach that broad community. So I'm excited.
I think who would our contenders be? I think like the Scott Galloways and Kara Swishers of the world.
Well, I was one of my leadoff questions for you kind of before was like, if you were going to design a podcast, who would you design a podcast after? And that might be where you were headed with this.
So I wish I listened to more podcasts, but I do have a handful of go-tos. My favorites are always interview style. Now that you ask me that, I guess I probably know this. My favorites are interview style, meaning somebody has a chance to really breathe into the conversation. It's not too rapid fire. It's not too long, but it's definitely not short. I think I'm suffering from sort of like this rapid fire of content online. And I blame all the platforms with algorithms who like demand so much content to like stay active in the algorithm. I tend to prefer a slow, thoughtful conversation. And so I guess that's interview style. I mean, Oprah has a great podcast where she doesn't talk very much at all. She's sort of a famous talker. She does a lot of listening. I love Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher because of their banter. There's a lot of back and forth. They have great yin and yang. I think of us kind of the same way. I love Nicholas Thompson's podcast, The Most Interesting Thing in AI, because he talks to super smart people and really knows how to probe because he's a subject matter expert as well. So his probing interview style is really, really good. Yeah, I mean, those are just a handful of favorites. What about you?
Yeah, I have such a eclectic taste, I guess, when it comes to this. Like, believe it or not, like I do, believe it or not, we're aligned when it comes to Pivot. I'm a big fan of Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway, even though I will say sometimes, and we're going to work on this. We're going to make sure it doesn't sound exactly the same all the time, right?
Right.
Because sometimes you can be like, oh man, they're talking about that again. Oh man, they're talking about that again. Oh man, they're talking about that again. I'm a huge fan of the All In podcast. Now, one of the things we're going to do with this podcast is we're not going to get political. Okay? As much as we can not get political in a world of politics where it drives everything. So the All In podcast tends to get a little political at times, which is where I'm sure I turned some people off when I said it, but I do like the style. I love Smartless. Do you listen to Smartless?
I think I've caught an episode.
Yeah, where they have like a mystery guest on and they introduce the mystery guest. That's always fun. I'm just looking at my list. I love On Purpose with Jay Shetty.
It's a good one.
And the last one I'm going to throw out is I love The Diary of a CEO.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah.
I love podcasts I can watch. And
Well, that's
so,
why we're recording this, right?
yes, yes.
And we're both in the same city as we're filming this, and you're no sleeves, of course, and I'm got like long sleeves
So it's
on and all
summer.
that other stuff. The Diary of a CEO podcast, and one of the things I just want to throw out about it, like right now, the episode that's on there is the vitamin D expert. The supplement world is giving the wrong advice. And
Mm,
a lot of people that think about the Diary of a CEO podcast wouldn't think that they'd be talking about that. So give that one a chance, just for everyone listening.
yes.
DOAC, Diary of a CEO.
Yep. I love it.
So what we're going to do, you guys, as part of this podcast is we've kind of broken it up into 4 chunks. Okay. Now the 4 chunks could be 3 chunks. They could be 2 chunks. They could turn into 7 chunks, but we're going to start with 4 chunks. Okay. And the 4 chunks are the signals. What are the signals that we saw this week that we want to talk about and we want to bring to light in this discussion? B, dive into one of them really deep, what we're going to call the real story. And that real story is, probably a little back and forth, maybe some tension, maybe some debate, healthy debate about one of them. The third one we're going to dive into is the human question, which is how this is affecting humanity. And it's a really key component of this podcast in a world that's, to me, filled with too many technical AI podcasts right now. We're going to talk about the impact of AI, but the human side of AI. And then lastly, kind of the edge, 1 or 2 predictions for the upcoming week.
Ooh, for the upcoming week. Wow.
Week. Yeah, like
This
this
really
is
is
this isn't
in the
like we're not,
moment.
I mean, sure, we'll do our end of the year show and all that stuff, and we can make predictions for the next year, but like just something that you think is going to be important to watch in the next week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Ready?
I feel like there's a lot of pressure to keep up with. Like when you say in the week, uh, do you ever take a week off, Jason, and then feel like you missed so much?
But that's all that could be your edge.
Totally.
It's just
But I
taking a
hope
week
that's what
off.
people feel is sort of a sense of the pace of things and the timeliness of things. But also like just kind of understanding what's real and relevant in the moment while things are happening.
And the other thing that we're going to be doing with this, you guys, is we really want this to be something that you become, this is going to sound corny, but friends with us. So we want to take this on the road. We want to do it live at conferences. We want to do it in your organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll probably get a little personal at times too. Talking about the impact on our kids and our families, as I really believe it's the best way to tie a lot of these things together.
I love it.
So let's start. Let's start with the first one that I think is a really important signal. Now, Jess, when every week we're going to introduce some signals, you might just pass. You might say, that's way too controversial. I don't want to talk about it. Or you
Mm,
might say, you know what? I don't know anything about that. And I might say to you, I don't know anything about that. So we don't always have to comment on it. But to me, they're just important signals to be watching.
perfect.
So
Game on.
the first one ties back to a Substack that I wrote this morning that you probably didn't read.
I haven't read it yet. I'm so sorry. I was
No,
working on their content.
that's okay. But it was all about this concept of we all have to go back to school.
I did see the headline.
And that there
Yes.
isn't like you go to school and then you're done learning. Then you go to work and you just do your work. Like over 30 years. That
Yeah.
we live in this world now where everyone is schooling, working, and education and learning is an ongoing thing.
Mm,
And that as we think about the world today and what's required of it, this concept of a broad ongoing education may be more important than a north-south vertical education.
yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so no joke, just 2 days ago, Saturday, I was in between softball games, with one of my kids, and I had two of her
I heard you
friends in the
almost got kicked out of a softball game. Is that true?
that is a true statement.
Different statement, different story, different time.
That I'll tell that story another time. That is a first time for me, by the way. I'm not the type of parent who normally lunges for the fence to dispute what's happening on the field. Anyway, different story, different time. But we had a long enough break in between games. I had Kenna and a couple of friends in the car, and we made a dash for frozen yogurt because it was so hot. And one of Kenna's friends, Ashley, asked her, I know, like, sometimes you get really good car conversation as a parent, right, Jason? Ashley said, Kenna, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, randomly. And Kenna said, I have no idea. She was sort of like scoffed at the question. I have no idea. And I thought about that and I just shut up, as a parent does when there's a good conversation happening in the car and you don't want to like ruin the flow of that. But in my head, I realized what I didn't like about that question, what I loved about her answer. And I actually thought to myself, I think every time I want to ask that question, I'll say, what do you want to do next? What do you think you might want to do next? It is way too far out for young people to think about what they want to do when they grow up. And I know plenty of adults still trying to figure out what they want to do to feel fulfilled and purpose-driven and happy and all of that stuff.
I think that's really, I think that's really good. Like, what do you want to do next? I like that.
Just next. Like, just.
Yeah, and the next is tied to what you just did now.
Right.
Sorry, I tried to tie our now to next together. But
No,
you know what
I
I mean?
love
Like, we don't know exactly what that means.
Like, I feel like I could ask you, what do you want to do next? And you would have some, like anybody of any age, any point in their career, it doesn't matter whether you've transitioned careers, if you've been in the same space your whole career, like everybody probably has something that they might say, gosh, I wish I could do this. I think for young people and early career people, it's especially important to give a little bit of a wide berth to figure out. Number one, we don't know what jobs are going to look like. Number two, skills have a half-life of almost nothing anymore. And I do think the most competitive organizations of the future will be learning organizations. They will have cultures, a leadership mindset, lots of psychological safety and permission for people to always be developing, and self-developing as much as organizationally developing. I think it has to be top down and bottom up. I have to have hunger, drive, curiosity, and space, permission, freedom to sort of learn, make mistakes, get new skills, keep refining my skills. And the organization has to give me some direction for what might be most valuable and important to achieving business outcomes. Both of those, hand in hand, I think is the most powerful thing organizations can be thinking about enabling right now.
And you know what I think is really interesting, Jess, and we'll put this this is why this is signal number one, because I read this fascinating piece early this morning. It was a study done by OpenAI, their economic research group, that was called Work at the Frontier. And the thing that I found most interesting about this is that out of all ChatGPT inquiries done at work, almost 50% are done outside of the domain where the person actually works.
I was dying to see how you were going to finish that. Interesting.
So
what does that mean to you?
Well, it just means people are working more, like I've said for about the last year, east-west instead of north-south. Like,
totally.
They're not just working deep in a domain where they already know what they're doing. They're having to go across the domains. And we'll put a link in the study into the show notes where you can actually see how they're going across. But I mean, for example, if I take a look at engineering, 53%, but engineering, they spend 4% of their time in customer experience, 4% of their time in design, 9% in finance, 4% in legal, 20% in marketing, and 2% in sales.
Wow. Look at all the skill sets in one person.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of for me, when we're thinking about the preparation, back to this first signal that I wrote about this morning, the more broad that you can be to understand how to use humanities or human skills, which we'll talk about in a second, the better I think we're going to be, as quote unquote prepared for work.
Mm. You know, I don't know if you realize.
By the way, think about, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Think about
Oh, that's
all of the challenges that causes, though, like job descriptions, uh, competencies,
Mhm.
skills, and things like that. I mean, it requires someone to be either very good at using tools, which is, I think, for sure. But then how do you know what question to ask next? Means you have to think about being broad enough cross discipline.
Mm. Oh, okay. There's so much in that. I don't know if you know, Jason, how many times I tell this story because I don't think I've ever told it to you. Uh, but sometimes when I talk about the role that I played at LeapGen, which was the prior consultancy, um, I joined after you were already off and running, but you asked me, I don't remember how, I don't think you asked me to be a CMO or asked me to be the, like you, but the word marketing was definitely used. And I definitely remember my response. I'm not a trained marketer. I acted surprised, confused, like, what? I'm not a trained marketer. And you said, I don't need a trained marketer. I need a storyteller. And you needed business outcomes often espoused by a CMO. Like what you asked for were business outcomes and the lever you needed pulled was storytelling. And you saw someone who could bring that to the table. Who cares what was on my resume, what I had done previously? It would not have been captured exactly in my resume, but you knew me. I tell that story all the time because then it took a while after that. People not naturally now thought that I had a title or like I had and I still say, no, I've never really been a CMO or a marketer really in my life, but I have been an industry storyteller for a long, long time. And I think that's how people need to so job descriptions, unfortunately, are lagging behind what the market is actually doing and how jobs are disrupting themselves, which is sort of ironic because it's one of the first things we rushed for with AI. But all we're
Yeah.
using AI for is to perfect job descriptions as written, instead of using them to be a little bit more intellectual and intuitive and to suss out like what the actual capabilities are that would produce the business outcomes and how you might look for a person like that. Unfortunately, we're still using stupid job descriptions and stupid resumes. And yes, I'm using that word on purpose, meaning lack of a little bit more intelligence, which would be a huge opportunity in this moment.
So just the other thing that I found interesting since you brought it up is that if you look across this, if you look across this, and by the way, for those of you watching on YouTube or wherever you watch, I hope this is valuable that you can see it. Look at the job that is got the biggest bubbles all the way down from top to bottom. So left to right would be the occupation. Top to bottom would be the traditional task. And look at marketing. 26, 28, 20, 25, 23, 36, 29. All that's saying or showing is that the ability to still tell stories, like you just talked about, is
Mm-hmm.
a huge part of every occupation.
Yeah. Because storytelling is connecting the dots, which is understanding context and applying some reasoning and some lived experience and pulling a thread through the story to help somebody arrive at a conclusion. Like, think about the art of storytelling. That is, I think it's the number one skill right now. Yes, in the AI era, and don't think of storytelling as drafting language. That's what Gen AI started doing for us a few years ago. And it's not all that artful. It can be, but it's actually quite, I mean, we know what it is. It's just sequencing and predicting and putting things together that make mathematical sense. The actual human critical thinking ability here is distilling insights and understanding what you're consuming and why it matters and applying it in new context and then translating. We've talked about translation, Jason, a
Yeah.
number of times, translating back to the business why to care, if to care about this and why. That is, I mean, humans sort of need to reimagine their own value in this thread. It's actually more important than ever. You just have to think about how AI is assisting you, not you assisting it.
And I think that for me, this study is probably like one of the clearest signals yet that AI isn't just changing how we work, it's changing what work is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like tasks are moving across traditional boundaries. That
Yeah.
we can't keep static job descriptions. And I think that the leaders who are AI native, let's just call them that, are going to organize around outcomes and orchestration, not titles.
Yes.
So, all that being said, I think it's about people creating more value. It's not about people doing more jobs. And I think that, to me, that's the highlight of this one study that we'll put out there, is that, jobs are becoming a really fluid collection of capabilities rather than fixed roles.
I think that's accurate, but a little bit wishful thinking yet. I have yet to see a bunch of job descriptions do away with themselves and be replaced with something better.
Dude, I
Everywhere
didn't say that. I didn't say it was. I didn't say that it.
I
I
think that's
didn't.
what
Well, no.
needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Here's what I'm trying to say. The job descriptions haven't caught up yet, but
Right.
the fact that those inquiries are happening the way they're happening is proof that the
Absolutely.
work has changed.
Yes. It's proof the work has changed and needs to change. Now, all of the artifacts and infrastructure of how we operationalize work need to catch up really, really fast, because your inability to catch up to that reality is literal value. It's like leaving the window open with the air conditioning on. You're just letting all that value out your business windows, because people are wanting to capture value and realize impact differently than they are, but your systems aren't designed to help them do that. And if they're not, that's total friction.
And Jess, that is a perfect lead in to our kind of signal and deep dive number 2. So,
Okay.
one of my favorite authors on X is Aaron Levy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Aaron? You know Aaron, right? Aaron's the CEO of Box.com.
Yes, I think
And
you've
for
sent
those
me
of
a
you,
too.
I'm sorry?
I think you've sent me a headline or two from Aaron.
Random texts in the middle of the night. So,
Yes.
so for those of you that don't follow Aaron, Aaron's at Levy, Levie, on X. And for those of you that don't use X,
You can still
uh,
see headlines.
yeah, you can still see headlines. Yes, and
Go
we'll talk
outside.
about it. But
Yeah.
one of the things that Aaron said in a tweet or an X, whatever I'm supposed to call it, over the weekend, is the battle in AI is shaping up to be a battle for context.
Mm,
Context. And the way he talked about it, he said, enterprise AI advantage is shifting away from models and towards context,
mm-hmm.
and defining context as the combination of governance, knowledge, domain expertise, tools, and workflows.
Mm.
And I think that it's really, really interesting to think of context is bigger than knowledge. Because in the past, we've just captured our knowledge databases. But when we think of context, it's all of the rules, it's how work works and things like that.
Yes.
And I think that that's a part of what you were just saying that hasn't caught up yet to that, is that,
1,000%.
and
I,
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess it was in March because I was there for Women's History Month. GE had me come out, GE Appliances had me come out for Women's History Month doing some AI stuff. And I'll never forget, one of their most senior engineering leaders in the room. I was going on and on about AI, pretty mixed audience, but as an organization very AI forward, very innovative in all parts of their business. How appliances work, how customer experiences are designed, how things actually get made on factory floors. And one of their most senior engineering talents raised her hand and said, "I'm getting pretty worried that no one around here is actually going to know how work works anymore." And what she's talking about is literal documentation. Literal documentation for several reasons. Number one, how does this thing actually get done so that you can map it and multiply it and automate it and let agents take it and run with it? Also for auditability and traceability, which is accountability, all of the things, you know. And it was such an interesting thing to say. Of course, we know this is like the year of agents. Like if last year wasn't, this year definitely is. And I think that's such a wise thing to say from a business process and governance perspective. You probably have no business playing around with agents if you haven't fully documented how work works in your organization and what that gives you. When you can literally document how things happen, you before you automate anything, you should interrogate it to see if it's still worthy and should be happening that way, and refine it and optimize it before you push it into agentic workflows and full automation. I don't know about you, Jason, most organizations are not close enough to this yet.
No, and once again, you've heard me say a fool with a tool is still a fool, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and we'll talk about tools just because we have a lot of listeners who care about tools. We'll talk about tools in a second. But I think that this is really, really important when we start to think about what is context. So we've talked about in the first signal, work changing. In the second signal, we're talking about this concept of context. And if I continue to go down the battle or the line here of the discussion, it's AI natives aren't just giving agents better context. They're building systems where every interaction strengthens the context
Yes.
for the next employee, the next team, and the next agent. And I think that's really interesting. When I was reading this, I jotted that down because for me, I was like for the tacit knowledge thing is still a huge problem. Tribal knowledge, walking out the door, entry-level jobs not being defined, et cetera, et cetera. If we're thinking contextually right about this, context expands and gets stronger every day.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And I'm not just doing automation. I'm really doing amplification and augmentation of the context of a company, and which is all of those things we talked about: knowledge, expertise, tools, workflows. That's the competitive differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that going forward, we will spend a lot less time talking about which model and a lot more time talking about how are we building capabilities that drive human performance on an ongoing basis through context.
I love that. I love that. And so what you're talking about is sort of like sense making and anticipating.
It's how do I say this? I don't mean it's compounding judgment.
Yes. So if you have a fully documented workflow that you've pushed the way of of automation, the workflow itself should be able to tell you, or tell itself really, that step wasn't necessary, or we never could perform that step, or that's not a value-adding step, so cut it. And it would self-optimize itself. And yes, there need to be kickouts for permission and validation and like, is this correct? Like, yes, do all of the, the necessary kickouts and loop back in so that you can validate that you're doing a good and correct thing. That's just test and refine, test and refine. But a workflow should be able to do that to itself. You can't get there unless you've documented and sort of interrogated what a good workflow is. And then it should almost like self-clean. It's like a self-cleaning oven.
Yes. I don't know about that. Well, I said, yes, 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 but I've never used a self-cleaning oven, so that's maybe not the right thing for me. But it gets stronger every time.
Yes.
Like it's sensing, and this is where, to me, in the past, with all these systems, if we wanted to change a workflow, we'd have to put in a ticket, go to IT, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. Now, as a manager or a leader, if I'm looking at an expense report, I saw this. I saw this in a vendor demo yesterday with Darwin Box, who was showing me some of their new capabilities. And I was like, like they were showing, like, hey, in the future, if a user doesn't need to see 8 things and they just
Yes.
need to see one, they say that once and it automatically adjusts.
Yeah.
And I think that if you think about all of the flows that we do, whether it be an applicant moving along faster, an expense report getting paid faster, like all
Hmm.
of the shit that's sitting waiting for approvals along the way, I think
Hmm.
that this concept of compounding context
Yes.
is really, really a huge signal for all of us, and it's going to change the way it, I've said this for the last 3 years. Instead of us learning how to use a computer, it's a computer learning how to work with us
Oh my
based on
gosh.
who we
Totally.
are, what we are, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this is a huge signal towards that.
So I'm going to add to what I said. I'm going to yes and myself right now, if that's a thing. Earlier, I said the most competitive organizations of the future are learning organizations, and I was referring to your workforce, investing in sort of the time, skills, resources, permission for them to be a constantly developing asset on their own behalf. I would add a learning organization in terms of self-optimizing, self-learning, self-correcting, your own documented workflows, everything that's the benefit of technology. Technology is documentation of how things are happening, of business processes and workflows. And if you can get that in a self-learning, self-cleaning oven mode, that means your organization is constantly evolving and adapting on its own behalf without humans constantly having to push buttons and say next, next, next.
I totally agree. So for me, that's something to really watch. That's another signal. And I say, when we say edge of now, one of the things I love about it is, like, it's not a signal for next year.
Yeah.
It's a signal for now. And I'd love for you guys to bring it into the work that you guys are doing every single day. So just the third and final signal, and we've already started to mess up our format because the signal and our real story have come together. But Satya Nadella, one of my
Mm.
favorite people to listen speak, favorite people to speak, can't speak like me. He can speak much better than me.
I've never heard him live. I quote him often.
You've never heard him live?
No, I
Oh
don't
my
think.
gosh.
I
Oh
know.
my gosh. Well, so I was listening to a podcast last night on the treadmill, and one of the things that he said, which I just loved, and I hope that listeners take this away, uh, we should not be using frontier models for non-frontier problems.
Ooh, oh, that's so good.
And I loved it because it's like, at first, to me, it kind of sounded like a tech discussion, but then it turned into, like, don't spend premium tokens on routine work.
Mm,
And are we really thinking about frontier problems, or are we really thinking about just, like, little workflows? And it got
yes.
me thinking deep into this whole concept of tokens and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to the point of, like, are we training anyone on that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
internally in our small company, we're like, oh, we're out of tokens. We're out of tokens. We're out of tokens. And I probably did something stupid like, hey, can you look at this email and tell me what's missing from it to make sure that I wrote it in a way that I didn't miss something? That's not a frontier problem. But I
No.
probably used a very expensive frontier model to solve it, and
Hmm.
therefore cost us tokens. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I mean, I
Yes.
think it's really, really important that all of us when we understand these models, we start to think about, before we route the model, we route the problem and start to say, like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And it got me thinking, kind of like, for us, like, in your head, what would be an example of a frontier problem?
Mm.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I don't know if I can name her or name this organization. One of our very good friends is leading AI transformation at a very impressive healthcare organization. And I'm aware of the fact that they blew through their budget for AI tools, handing out licenses like candy, and had to like literally call time out, time out. What have we done with all of this tool investment so far? Please tell me it's not just drafting PowerPoint decks, which it was. Everybody's just creating a bunch of artifacts of work that aren't really themselves moving the needle on anything instead of, and I'm sure they were doing other amazing things as well, but frontier problems are, uh, you know, discovering new disease interventions,
Yeah. So,
not
oh my
drafting
God.
the
Oh my God. So
deck.
sorry. So really quickly, I tried that exercise myself, and I had much more time to think about it than you did.
Okay.
And this is why sometimes I'm on the treadmill for 45. I plan to be on the treadmill for 45 minutes, and all of a sudden I'm on it
3
for
hours
2 hours
later.
because can't get something out of my head. So here's what I jotted down. Sorry for those of you on the video, because you're going to see me reading off of a scrappy piece of paper. I said, routine problems we know the answers to.
Mm,
Does that make sense? Like, routine problems, we're just trying to do faster.
yes.
Complex problems have kind of known methods. But
Mm-hmm.
frontier problems require us to discover both the answer and the method.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Does that make sense? Because I was like, how do I break this down? So I was like, okay, in science and medicine, it's identifying a treatment for a rare disease, like you said.
Yep.
In engineering, it's designing a system that must operate safely in conditions that have never been tested.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make sense? It in thinking about creative work, it's like a new product category rather than improving an existing product. So
Yes.
not improving a product, but a new product category that probably doesn't have a vocabulary yet.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I think those are frontier problems. And I sorry, I guess you can tell how excited I get because I can't talk. Like, I don't even think we've scratched the surface on thinking. I think there are people that are, but on true frontier problems and these models, like these new models, when everyone's real excited, like, do you know there's been 8 models released in the last 3 days? I'm like, yeah, they're all frontier models and they're all really expensive and they should only be used for frontier problems. That's my personal take.
Totally. I had this moment yesterday. There's a mom I follow on Instagram, and she's the mother of a disabled child, and she shares his journey, and it's beautiful. And she posts stuff because she has a very rare disease. And so a lot of the stuff she's experiencing, she's sort of alone in trying to figure something out, or, she doesn't have a big community of people to follow herself. So she just puts herself out there for people to help. And he has like this little custom walker, literally custom, because he's a little guy and he needs it to operate a certain way to help him get over a curb, to do certain things. So it's totally custom engineered. And she posted something yesterday, or, whenever I saw it yesterday, that said, could somebody help me figure out how to carry his walker? Because he doesn't always need it or want it. And we like him to be able to walk on his own when he can and wants to. And this thing is heavy for me to lug around. Like, could somebody figure out how to, like, maybe I could wear it like a backpack? And I literally had this thought, I wonder if she put that thing in Nano Banana to see if it could, like, like, and I combed the comments, like, is anybody helping this? And of course, there were lots of like engineering people, like, take this to a machine shop and ask them to do this thing and whatever. And like, everything was, and I was like, that's a frontier problem right there. I wish we could help come up with new novel solutions for things that are hard to crack on our own. Like, yeah, I totally drafting email, like no
And
shade to
that doesn't mean we shouldn't use AI for
yes,
that.
no shade to the other stuff. It's just not the big opportunity. It's not
Yep.
the big opportunity.
Yeah. No, completely agree. So when we think about the week, and once again, we're recording these earlier in the week. We're going to post them a little bit later in the week. But if you think about these three signals that we talked about,
Mm,
and you had to try to wrap them up into one message,
yeah.
any ideas?
Well, so last week, I know this is a little bit reactive. You sent me, I don't think it was the jobs report, but there was something about unemployment claims. Um,
I think I probably sent you the thing that more people were out of the workforce than ever before,
yes.
or not.
Well, so it was okay. So it was this one. There's a report that said first time unemployment claims dropped, and continuing unemployment claims also low. And so, if I were to interpret that headline, we're in sort of this stalled out sort of phase. Low hire, low fire. Okay. Low hire, low fire phase of the employment market. And the other thing that I think we're missing here, like I feel like there should be a dot, dot, dot on there. We're not seeing very many net new AI jobs, meaning jobs drafted for what comes next. We're seeing not a lot of new jobs, period, replacement jobs, not a lot of employment and first time or continuing unemployment claims. I like when I read reports like this, I see a stalled out job market. Employers are holding off. They're still making AI investments, but they're making investments in AI tooling and technology, not in AI forward people. We're not redesigning jobs yet to keep up or to create value out of the actual AI technology investments we're making. We're in this stalled out sort of in between. I think that, and this isn't a next week prediction, I wish it would happen as soon as next week. I think in the months to come, we'll see a little bit of catch up in the actual jobs of the future, meaning what an AI forward organization who is redesigning work believes that it now needs from a human capability standpoint to operate in that environment. I still see old jobs or no jobs, which tells me it's a lagging employment market.
Yeah, and I totally so first of all, Jess, I totally agree with you. I want to argue with you, but I can't on that. I totally agree with you. I do think that it's not spread equal, and I do think there are going to be organizations that are going to leapfrog very, very fast other organizations who are. I think there's AI native.
Sure. You saw, so then there's also the Revelio Labs and
Yep,
RAMP study.
yep,
There are, and again, it's such a micro slice of the industry, but there are there are employers, organizations who are investing heavily in AI technologies, tools, strategies, and they're hiring more people because of it. So we're also seeing that is very much an edge case. Those are very bleeding edge, first mover organizations. I guess what I'm saying is I think we're going to see a little bit more catch up and a few more organizations going that way.
totally agree. And my excuse me, my edge, which has got me choked up yet excited, is about leadership.
Mm,
Because I actually think that there's a new brand of leadership, and I've been writing about it quite a bit on X called AI native leadership.
mm,
And I think AI native leadership to me is the thing that I'm going to talk more about probably on this podcast than anything else. Because the only thing that's stopping what you're starting to talk about is leadership.
yeah.
There's nothing else stopping it. There's
No.
no government compliance issues. Like, why are people not being invited to meetings where the work goes east west instead of north south? As jobs are becoming more porous, we keep
Mhm.
people in boxes. That's a leadership issue.
Completely. There's nothing that needs to be invented, technology or otherwise, for you to become this kind of organization. It
No,
all exists.
right. I think that instead, I think we've got the same thing about most leaders are still thinking of AI as task automation instead of human expansion. And,
Yeah.
you know, I did a huge keynote for an all employee meeting this week. And I'm like, leader. And then I did a separate breakout session for leaders. I said, leaders, you have to model this.
Yep.
Like, this is not about task expansion or task automation. It's about human amplification and human expansion. And the more that you can bring people along on that journey with you as an AI native leader, which I hope everyone listening to this becomes, whether you're a little kid that wants to lead your little pack of people in a different way and saying, guys, AI isn't something that's burning more water, even though it is. Let's think about how we use it to help us all get better. Or, whether we're an 80-year-old thinking about planning something and, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we created an image? Yeah, but wouldn't it be even cooler if we talked about how to keep a discussion going after our little meeting for an event where we created an image and said, let's make the humanity stronger. And I
Hmm.
think that you and I talk about this a lot. Not human plus machine, not human minus machine, not human versus machine, human times machine, or like the new human variable work we're starting around HX.
Yep.
Like that human times machine with humans still at the helm is where this is all. That's our now. That's the now,
It is
and
now.
it's got to be the edge.
So as you were describing that, I can't help but think of like everything is new and novel until it's not, right? Like we don't say generative AI anymore, it's just AI. I don't think we'll say AI native leader when we don't need to anymore. When you go shopping for a new house, you don't say, I'd like one with electricity, please. We sort of assume it's going to come wired.
You're so right. Now that you say that, you're so right. Like I would never say like the mouse native leader as someone who's really good at using a mouse.
But
Or
it's still new and novel. So we'll say it until we don't have to, and then it will just become core and implicit to our thinking. But for now, it's not. And that's kind of the whole point. This has to become core and native to your thinking. So I guess new and novel gets replaced by native. And until that happens, we have to state it explicitly. Just like I said in 2025, I said, I don't think I've ever heard people use the word human like in defense of ourselves
right.
to fight for our own relevance more than I did in 2025 because it all of a sudden seemed necessary to define human because everything felt like human versus AI. It's not human versus AI, but we were just getting used to new language.
Do you remember in my book in 2018 where I said stop calling users and
Yeah,
said call them humans?
I think I just quoted that in my LinkedIn post today. Stop saying users. Like we're having to say that all over again because we're doing it all over again for different reasons. Now it's users and agents, human agents versus AI agents. Like, oh my goodness.
Okay. So Jess, this was an amazing first episode. I love doing this. I can't wait to do this weekly with you.
Yeah.
Do you want to thank our sponsors? Oh man, we
I'd
don't
like
have
to
any
thank
sponsors.
I'd like to thank Bailey, who I made lunch for before we began. My second daughter, who walked in our background as we began. No, I don't know. Who would we like to thank? Our
No, I don't want to thank anyone. I just want to say I want to thank people for listening.
Yeah.
A, and B, if you found any value in this, what is it that they say? Like, please share, like us, give us a star, give us a thumbs up. But most importantly, I hope that you can use this as inspiration and education for what you do, whatever it is,
I
on a
think I
daily
have our
and
new
weekly basis.
intro or outro, Jason. You just reminded me when, speaking of Bailey and Kenna, when they wanted to be famous YouTubers. And I let them create like a private YouTube channel. And I have a video, I'm going to find it now, where they said, like and subscribe and smash that like button. And I have like 20 outtakes of them. Smash that like button. Yeah, do all that. Sharing is caring.
Thank you guys so much for joining. First episode, we're going to do this weekly. Like us. I mean, don't like us. Like it. give us feedback,
Drop
and
a review.
yeah, smash the like button, and
Smash the like button.
we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one. Bye.